Most people work for money, but the 1% know how to make their money work for them. One of my aunties is rich, but she didn't start out that way. She actually failed high school and didn't make it into university. So here are 5 simple rules that I've learned from her that helped her go from being broke to being in the top 1%. And the great news is these are rules that you can actually apply today, even if you're not a millionaire yet. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Queenie and I'm here to help you get smarter with your money. Just remember that this video is general advice only and not personal financial advice. You can read my full financial services guide in the description. This video is sponsored by Perla, which is the investing app that I use, but I'll talk more about them later in this video. So my auntie started a business with her husband, and instead of spending all of their money, they invested in things like stocks and real estate. Now the business doesn't actually make any money at all, but it doesn't matter because they have assets making them money. Warren Buffett, one of the richest people in the world, famously said, "Don't save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving." And this quote basically summarizes exactly how the 1% think about money. So the first lesson is to pay yourself first. Here's what most people do. They pay for their needs first, so things like their rent, bills, and groceries. Then they fill up their wants like dinners out, entertainment, and clothes. And then whatever they have left over, if anything, they finally pour into their savings and investments. But sometimes by the time they're finished spending, they don't have anything left for their savings and investments. But the 1% flip this mindset. First, they pour into their savings and investments. Then they pour into their needs, and finally they pour into their wants. This mindset has really changed the game when it comes to my personal finances. It's so important to pay yourself first because I think it also comes down to self-esteem and actually valuing your time and your effort. When you think about it, when we pay everyone else first and pay ourselves last, we might be unintentionally telling ourselves that we don't deserve our own money. And if you're not quite sure where to begin, the 55-25-20 rule is a good place to start. So 55% of your income goes to your needs, 25% goes to your wants, and 20% goes to your savings and investments. You can of course adjust these percentages to fit your lifestyle and your budget, but the key is to make sure that you are paying yourself first. Even if you're just starting at 5% to begin with, you can always increase it from there. But the thing that matters most is consistency and building this habit over time. And if you're living in Australia, the US, or the UK, the good news is you're most likely already contributing to your own retirement plan, which is usually around 10% of your income or more. But in my opinion, it's good to have extra savings and investments to rely on just in case, because you can only access that money once you're over 65, and you may want to take out some of your savings and investments earlier to pay for other things. So the next lesson is learning how to make your money work for you. Because if you want to reach financial independence, you need to learn how to make your money work for you through investing. There are so many ways to invest, but my personal favorites are stocks and real estate. The wealthy know that the key to earning more money is not just by working more, but it's actually making deals. But the good news is investing doesn't need to be complicated, and if you have the skills to buy something on your phone, then you have the skills to make an investment. I would say the easiest place to start investing is through something called an ETF. ETF stands for exchange traded funds. Think of it like investing in a basket of shares in one investment. Inside that basket, there can be hundreds or even thousands of different companies. And the good news is, even if one company performs poorly, it doesn't matter too much because there are other companies in that investment that can help even it out. I personally believe investing in ETFs is a really great place to start because you don't need thousands and thousands of dollars to start investing, compared to something like real estate where you do need quite a lot of money to start investing. Say for example, $50,000 or even $100,000 to start investing in real estate. Whereas with ETFs, if you have $1,000 or even less, you can start investing. And the good news is with ETFs, you actually don't need that many ETFs in your portfolio to have a diversified portfolio. Here are some of my favorite ETF combos. There's VAS and VGS, and this gives you access to both the Australian stock market and the international stock markets without them overlapping. And if you prefer an ethical combination, there's FAIR and VESG, which is similar but with an ethical focus. Another combination is VTS, which is the Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF. This invests in the total US stock market. You can combine this ETF with VEU, which is the Vanguard All World excluding US ETF. So it basically invests in the international stock markets, excluding the US, which you would have covered with VTS. And if you want a bit more exposure to the Australian stock market in this portfolio, you could even add in VAS as well. Let's say, for example, Isaac has $500 per month to put aside to his savings. He's with a high interest savings account, which gives him 5% per year. After 40 years of saving $500 per month, he ends up with $763,000, which is not bad. But if Isaac invests invested that $500 per month with an average annual return of 8% per year, he would have ended up with $1.7 million. That's a difference of over $1 million over the long term. Of course, investment returns aren't guaranteed. The average yearly return of the S&P 500, which is the top 500 companies in the US, is around 10% per year. But as you can see from this table, not every year is a perfect 10% per year. In 2025 so far, we've had a return of 14.47%. The year before that, it was 26%. And the year before that, we were minus 18%. But as you can see, there are definitely a lot more positive returns than there are years with negative returns. And that's why it's really important to invest for the long term so that you can wait out the ups and downs in the market. And if you would like to start investing for yourself, the platform that I use is called Perla. It's a really amazing app that I personally use. One of my favorite features of Perla is you can actually set up automated investments. If you head on over to the Automate tab, you can actually set up an automation. I personally use it to invest 20% of my pay each month. As you can see, I have 2 automations set up. One is to automatically invest in 2 ETFs in my portfolio, though sometimes I do update this automation because I change my mind between which ETF portfolio I want to invest in. And the other automation is to automatically reinvest my dividends. So whenever dividends land in my Perla account, they will be invested once I reach a certain threshold. Say for example, once I have at least $1,000 in my account to invest, then it will invest in my ETFs. And if you'd like to make a manual investment, it's really easy to do that as well with Perla. So I simply go here in ASX Invest. Let's say for example, I want to invest in VESG. I click on buy. Let's say for example, I want to invest $1,000. I simply click next and then confirm. You can even use this QR code up here to scan directly and go to Perla. So the next lesson is to start valuing your time more than money. The 1% know that their most valuable asset isn't money, it's time. So if there's a task that you don't enjoy doing and you're not very good at, that could be done for someone else for cheaper, then it could be worth outsourcing it. I feel like this point could be a bit of a trap if you start doing this before you're actually ready to, because I don't think it's worth outsourcing things before you can actually afford to do it. But once you have set yourself up and you're in a really good financial position, it could be worth doing this. So this might mean hiring a cleaner, using grocery delivery services, or even trying meal prep or food delivery services. There are so many ways to buy back your time, but here are my personal favorites. I personally order my groceries online instead of going to the supermarket and actually buying them. It does cost a bit more, but actually not that much when you think about how much time I'm saving. I've also hired a housekeeper to come in a few hours per month to help with things like cleaning and doing the laundry. And this has honestly been such a game changer for me. We used to do meal kit and meal delivery services like HelloFresh, but we actually got a Thermomix, and this has been such a game changer when it comes to doing our meal prep every week. Pablo usually does the cooking, and instead of having to spend a lot of time swapping between different appliances, the good thing is with the Thermomix, because it is like an all-in-one appliance, we can do all of our cooking in there. I also automate my bills and I automate my investing, and I even use AI tools to draft all of my emails. So it is definitely worth weighing up the pros and cons and seeing how much it would cost you to outsource something versus how much time and energy you would get back by outsourcing those tasks. I used to feel pretty guilty hiring the housekeeper that helped with the cleaning and doing our laundry, but honestly now that she's been here for a few months, I can really see how much time she saved us, and she's actually so much more efficient at doing the tasks than I would be. We've hired her for around 4 hours per week, and in that time she's able to do all the cleaning and the laundry. And the good news is with that saved time, I'm able to spend more time with my family and also spend more time growing the business. So here are some ways that you can figure out things that you could outsource in your own life. Start tracking your time for a week, seeing exactly how much time you spend on different activities. Highlight which tasks you actually enjoy doing and which tasks that you're good at versus which tasks you don't enjoy doing and you're not very good at. Then estimate the value of your time. Figure out your hourly wage, and if it's possible to outsource this task for cheaper than your hourly wage. And you may even be able to use AI to outsource some of these tasks as well. The next thing the 1% do is they use the laws to their advantage. The 1% don't just make money, they find ways to protect it. And they they don't do it all alone. They surround themselves with experts, things like accountants, advisors, and mentors, who can help them grow their wealth efficiently. Let's take Jeff Bezos, for example. In 2024, he reportedly saved over $1 billion in taxes by moving to Florida, which is a state with no income tax. But the good news is you don't need to move countries in order to save some money on your taxes. Of course, it's all based on where you live in the world, but in Australia, here are some examples of ways that you could potentially save on your taxes. But it's always a good idea to double check these with an accountant first to make sure that it suits your needs. Superannuation contributions are taxed at 15%, which is often a lot lower than our marginal tax rates. Of course, you do need to weigh up things like contributing extra to your superannuation, because you won't be able to access this money until you're in your 60s. So pretty much all taxpayers pay the Medicare levy, which is a 2% tax on income to fund public health care. But there's also an additional Medicare levy surcharge for high income earners. So if you earn over $101,000 per year as a single or $202,000 per year as a family, and you don't have appropriate private health insurance with hospital cover, then you may need to pay an extra tax, which is called the Medicare levy surcharge. The extra Medicare levy surcharge is anywhere from 1% to 1.5% depending on your income. So if you are in that high income tax bracket, then it could be worth looking into that hospital cover because it may be able to save you some money. Another thing to look into is potential business and company structures. Running a small business or a side hustle can allow you to claim a lot of legitimate tax deductions. So things like software, equipment, or potentially even your home office. You could also look into things like setting up a family trust, which can help you distribute income from your assets to different family members, and potentially looking into the capital gains tax discount. If you hold on to your investments for longer than 12 months, then you get a 50% capital gains tax discount. And if you are a business owner or an employee who has access to novated leases through your company, and you are in the market to buy a new car, then you could potentially look at getting an EV, because there is a fringe benefits tax exemption on EVs. There are some exclusions that apply, so it's important to double check with an accountant. It's also important to make sure that you are keeping track of all of your deductions throughout the year, and even things like donations, because they really do add up. And the final tip is to make sure that you are still enjoying your time and your money along the way. Building wealth isn't just about hoarding every cent, it's building a life that you actually enjoy. I read this book called Die with Zero, and it honestly completely changed my whole philosophy when it came to building wealth and managing my money. I used to be a lot more frugal and always living in the future, so always thinking about things that I could do now that would set myself up for the future. But I think I took it too far at some points and I kind of stopped enjoying the present. But there was this really interesting chapter of this book that honestly changed my whole perspective on life. As we've seen previously in this video, you've probably seen those compound interest graphs which show you that investing $500 per month ends up being $1.7 million by the time you're 65, which is amazing, and it really shows the power of compound interest. But what a lot of people forget is that the older that we get, the more our health declines. So you can see here from the ages of 20 to 75, our wealth generally rises with time because we have more money invested and our money is basically making money from our money. But as we can see here from the ages of 20 to 75, our health also declines, and so does our ability to enjoy different activities. So as we can see here at 65, you may have more money than at 45, but your ability to do physical activities is greatly diminished even if you are in great health for 65. And there are some activities that you can only really fully enjoy while you're young. For example, going to a music festival when you're in your 20s and 30s is a lot more fun potentially than going to a music festival in your 90s. The people around us, our family and friends, they're also getting older too. So we also need to keep in mind that there might be some things that we might want to do with our parents or our grandparents right now that we may not be able to do in 10 or 20 years time. And if you have kids, there might be some things that you can do with your kids right now that you might not be able to do with your kids in 20 or 40 years time. So that's why it's also really important to set aside money to do really fun things in life. We talked about the 55-25-20 rule, where 25% of your money can be allocated towards fun expenses. And I think it's really important to enjoy that money guilt-free, because we never really know what the future holds, and it's really important to enjoy our life now and not just always be waiting to enjoy our life later. So some of my favorite ways to spend money money, my fun budget is taking a holiday. I love treating myself to little snacks like a bubble tea or a gelato or even a pastry. And in general, I love spending money on experiences, so things like travel, concerts, spending time with friends and family, because there actually have been studies that show that people who spend money on experiences actually get a lot more enjoyment out of their money compared to people who spend money on things. And of course, don't get me wrong, I do love spending money on material possessions from time to time, but it's also important to spend money on experiences too. And I'm curious to hear from you, what are your favorite things to spend money on? Let me know in the comments below. And if this video helps you get 1% better, I would really appreciate it if you could give this video a like and subscribe to this channel. It really helps push my content out to more people. And don't forget, if you would like to start investing, you can check out Perla and use my code Queenie for a $20 credit. And if you would like to see which ETFs I'm personally investing in, you can check out this video up here. And write us a comment below with the word freedom in it, just so we know you watched this video all the way through. Thank you. Bye.